Hello Bio 12 and welcome back to the reproductive system. We're moving on to part 2. So this is the female reproductive structures. And in the males we talked about both hormones and structure and function, but in the females we're just going to focus on structure and function because it's a little bit more complicated. So we'll talk about hormones in a subsequent video. So I'm just going to quickly go through the pathway that an egg takes. You don't have to write this down because you are going to get the information after. But we're going to start in the ovary where the egg is going to be produced. It's going to move into the fallopian tubes, or we can call this the oviduct as well. And it's going to be basically flicked down the fallopian tube by the fimbriae. So here we are in the fallopian tube. It's going to move down until it enters the uterus, and then comes through the cervix, which is this opening here, and then out through the vagina. Now another term to keep in mind is the endometrium. That is the walls of the uterus, and these are going to thicken due to hormone cycling and are going to be shed during menstruation. So let's first talk about oogenesis. So oogenesis, all that it is the development of an ovum. Now we can call it ovum, plural, ova, singular, and all that this is the development of the egg. Okay, so at birth, females are born with all their eggs, so they have all ova, and these are going to be immature, so immature eggs at birth. Then, once females hit puberty, they are going to release one ova per month. And these ova that are being released are going to be mature eggs. So mature eggs are released once a month after puberty has been hit. So looking at a diagram of oogenesis, or the development of an egg, so this is all occurring in the ovary. So all of this is occurring in the ovary. Okay, so in our ovary, we're going to start with what we call a primary oocyte, and the primary oocyte is the beginning of the egg development. So our immature egg we have here in our ovary is going to be surrounded by a follicle. Again, egg we also call primary oocyte. We call this the immature egg. Okay, so immature egg or oocyte surrounded by a follicle. As the egg develops, you can see, so does this follicle until it reaches a mature state. And the mature follicle we're going to call a Graafian follicle. And at this point that it reaches, that it's developed until a certain maturity level is reached, this follicle is then going to burst, and it's going to release what we call the secondary oocyte, or the mature egg. Okay, and after this egg is released, all that we have left in our ovary is called the corpus luteum. So we have our oocyte. This is going to be our immature egg, or ova. This is going to be surrounded by a follicle, and then the follicle is going to mature. This is going to mature to Graafian follicle, and once this maturity level has been reached, the egg is also going to mature with the follicle. So the mature egg is going to be released. So ovum is released, and we call this ovulation. So ovulation, releasing of the ovum. So ovulation can occur because our mature follicle, so our Graafian follicle, is going to burst, and it's going to release the ovum. This whole process is regulated by hormones, but this is something we're going to discuss in the next lesson, so you will see this again. So when we're talking about the pathway that the egg takes as it has developed and is released, so the egg is going to start in the ovary, and the ovary is going to release the ovum. This is then going to travel down the oviduct. So again, oviduct or fallopian tube. So we've now left the ovary. We're traveling down the fallopian tube, and it's going to be directed by the fimbriae. So that's these feather-like structures right here. That is directing, basically launching the ovum down the fallopian tube. And it is here in the fallopian tube where fertilization occurs. So fertilization occurs in oviduct. This is where the egg and the sperm are going to meet for fertilization to occur. The oviduct is also going to contain cilia to sweep the egg or the ovum to the uterus. To sweep ova to uterus. And this usually takes approximately 4 to 5 days for the egg to be released from the ovary and to be entering into the uterus. And again, after the egg is released, what's left over is called the corpus luteum. So remaining follicle tissue after that egg has been released, we call this the corpus luteum. So looking at the structure of our uterus, because we can call our uterus our womb, we also call, so we don't call it anything else, we just call it our womb. Okay, so the uterus has, or the womb, this is going to have thickened walls. This is where implantation is going to occur. So the walls are going to get thicker and thicker through the cycles because of those hormones. So looking at the structure of the uterus, we have an outside wall. This is going to be called the myometrium. So the myometrium is the outer muscle layer. And then it's going to have this, it's actually going to have the endometrium that I forgot to put in. And this is going to be the inner muscle layer. So you can see here, this is the inner muscle layer. If you can see that yellow, hopefully you can. Maybe you can't. It's the inner muscle layer of the uterus. Okay, and then we have the cervix. The cervix is just going to be the opening from the uterus to the vagina. So here's a diagram of actually the vulva. So people get the vagina and the vulva confused. The whole structure, everything included, is called the vulva. When we talk about the vagina, it is just the opening here. That's what we refer to when we're referring to the vagina. So the vagina is going to be lined with mucosal cells. Mucosal cells, obviously mucus. And the purpose of this is going to be for lubrication. So it's going to be a lubricant. Okay, we also can call our vagina our birth canal. That's another name for it. And females have a structure called the clitoris. This is anterior of the labia, so it's at the top of the vulva. And this is basically the female equivalence of the male's penis in regards to stimulation. So we have the clitoris, this is anterior of labia, and the clitoris is going to be for stimulation. This is has the most nerve endings in the entire female body. Okay, and then the labia are mostly just going to be for keeping the area clean. So this is going to be for being clean. Okay? Ooh. So keeping clean. Keeping our area clean. Okay? So the mucosal cells, so the clitoris, the labia, and the vagina, they're all going to swell during arousal. What should you know from this video? You should be able to identify the parts from the structure and function, so ovaries, oviducts, uterus, endometrium, cervix, vagina, clitoris, and you should be able to know the development of the egg or oogenesis.